Hi, my name's Phil. I'd like to talk about politics, and in this video I'd like to pick up on what is now a familiar theme. Kemi Badenoch, in theory today, asked some decent questions that in normal circumstances might actually put the Labour government under a bit of pressure. Only because, as I keep saying, every attack line she comes up with rebounds on herself. These lines are just not working. Especially when she can be called out for telling provable lies in the House of Commons. It's not the best strategy when people are sick of dirty politics. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So yeah, I know I kept saying, I'm not going to do regular videos on PMQs after the election. But you know what? They're just too entertaining. I'll stop as soon as the major players stop saying stupid things, I swear. But if I were to summarise what Badenoch put to Starmer today, it was on various subjects. Whether there would be more tax rises this Parliament, business confidence as a result of the national insurance policy, the farmers' protests and the policy on the introduction of EVs, with the news that Vauxhall are now blaming that for the factory closure. Now, in theory, 4 very good lines of attack, if they were coming from the Liberal Democrats. The only problem is they're coming from Kemi Badenoch, and almost all of them came back to hit her in the face with interest. See, take the farmers' protest. This was the best example. Badenoch said that earlier this year, the Tories presented a budget. Indeed, they did in March. And there were no farmers protesting outside Westminster, she said. Frankly, she was lucky that Starmer's not the greatest political opportunist. Otherwise, she'd have been toast at this point. So here's a protest. Farmers on tractors protesting outside Westminster. And no, it's not from this month. It's from March. You know, that time when the Tories presented their final budget and they were in government, and Kemi Badenoch insists that at the time there were no farmers protesting outside Westminster. Now, granted, it wasn't the most committed protest. It was like a one-off as far as I could tell. Nothing like the anger shown against Jeremy Clarkson's kids having to pay tax on free money. But it's still a protest, and it's in response to the Conservative government, and it's outside Westminster. What's more, Kemi Badenoch would certainly have known about it because, I mean, not only were quite a lot of tractors there, and it was in the news. As the business secretary, the protest was aimed largely at her. And given that she still supports the sort of trade deals which the farmers were protesting about at the time, you would think they still do protest her particular attitude to farming. So Badenoch lied to Parliament. Starmer really should have taken advantage. But the fact that he didn't doesn't alter the fact she provably lied. Then there was her first gambit. So the Chancellor, she said, has insisted that there's no more tax rises. The budget last month, that's the big one. That's it now. Would Starmer just repeat the Chancellor's own words? Of course, Starmer didn't. He said he wasn't going to write the next 5 years' budgets. But this was a good opening question. Always looks dodgy when the Prime Minister will not repeat a statement made by one of their own cabinet colleagues. Because then you think, well, which one's telling the truth? Why don't you just back it up? In fact, it's the only line she really had that was any good. She opened with it and then left it alone. She had an advantage, immediately relinquished it, moved on to business confidence. So this is related to the CBI complaining about the increase in employers' national insurance contributions. But although Badenoch has promised to axe all sorts of new taxes from Labour, without saying how she'll pay for them, she has so far avoided saying that she would reverse the national insurance rise. So she's not saying she would get rid of it. So at the point she was asking Starmer about business confidence, she is also saying that she would support the offending policy if she were in government herself. So Starmer had no problems batting this one away, and even pointing out how one of Badenoch's shadow ministers has been openly disagreeing with her. And then Badenoch persisted. It's been battered away really easily. She actually should have stuck with that first line on tax rises, but she carried on with the same line, whilst also sneaking in a demand for a general election. I'm not sure how the Tories think they'd be able to fight another general election so soon when their funds are so low they're having to cut back at their own headquarters. And when Starmer tackled that particular aspect of the question, he said, well, she talks about a petition, but we had a massive petition on the July the 4th. He should have added, she lost, she should get over it. But alas, he did not. However, Starmer could still bat away these all day because although Badenoch is criticising the government, and she's criticising it along a line that others are criticising as well, It's second-hand criticism. She's just repeating what others are saying about the policy, but she officially stands by the policy herself because she won't say she would get rid of it. Then she told her lies about the farming protest, which I've just gone through. Honestly can't believe Starmer messed up by not pouncing on that. Never mind. Then she turned to the factory, which says it will close because of EV rules. They're lying, by the way, but I'll cover that in a separate video, perhaps tomorrow, unless lots of things go crazy. But Starmer didn't need to call out the obvious lies of the factory owners, and I don't think would have done anyway. All he had to do was point out that the rules that Badenoch's complaining about, again second-hand, were Conservative rules that Labour just inherited. Only this was even better, because Badenoch was the specific minister who introduced the rules. So this isn't just something that her government did, it's something that she did, personally. You know, it's a bit like last night, they had the vote on the smoking and vapes bill, which was a Conservative bill. I think Labour added a bit about not targeting children with vaping products, but basically it's a Conservative bill that Labour said, yeah, we agree with this, we'll do it for you. You will finish it off. You didn't seem to get it finished in time for the election. We'll do it for you, don't you worry. And then a load of Tories didn't actually support it. Rishi Sunak couldn't be bothered to turn up for his own bill, for example, and Badenoch was against it. But anyway, she then used her final question to summarise the previous 5 with a scripted text, which took no account of the fact that Starmer had slapped most of them down. And it just shows why we would have been much better off as a country, regardless of your politics, if more people had voted tactically and we ended up with a Liberal Democrat opposition. See, the lines Badenoch had today, apart from telling lies about farmers, were actually good ones. Like, if you looked at them and you didn't know who was going to ask them, you just looked at questions for the government, you would look at them and you would go, yeah, these are quite awkward questions for the government. But because it was the Conservatives asking them, and not just any old Conservative, but the Cabinet Minister was directly responsible for at least 2 of them, they just don't work as attack lines. How dare you do this thing that I was also doing? What? At one point, Badenoch actually said that if the Prime Minister wants to see what a Conservative government would do, he should just resign. And it's like, I mean, let's forget for a moment that if Keir Starmer resigns, that doesn't trigger a general election. Never mind that little point. But, like, if he wants to see what a Conservative government would do, we know what a Conservative government would do. We've just had a 14-year lesson in it. Like, hand these lines to Ed Davey and they could have worked out pretty well. But as it is, this is essentially like the arsonist complaining that the fire brigade are doing a bad job of putting the fire out. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, you can join for memberships. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'll see you later.